Matt Singer, yum!
Hello, and welcome to another Math Singer video. My name is Dr. Eric McDowell, and today we will be discussing how to use pictures to divide one number into another. Along the way, I'll discuss why there are actually many answers to any given division problem, and then show how we can settle on the solution that is most generally accepted as the correct one. We'll conclude by using our picture division to explain why dividing any number into zero always results in an answer of zero, and why dividing any number by zero is always undefined. Let's begin by asking what we will get by dividing 7 into 25. Well, as it turns out, there are actually many answers to this question. We can begin to see this by using a picture to model the problem. You see, asking for the solution of 25 divided by 7 is really just asking how many groups of 7 dots can be formed from a group of 25 dots, and how many dots remain after our groupings have been made. As we will see, there are many, in fact, infinitely many, ways to answer this question. For example, we can recognize that one group of 7 dots can be formed with 18 dots remaining, or 2 groups of 7 dots each can be formed with 11 dots remaining, or 3 groups of 7 dots can be formed with 4 dots remaining. Well, so asking for the solution of 25 divided by 7 can be correctly answered as 1 with a remainder of 18, 2 with the remainder of 11, or 3 with the remainder of 4. We can get even a bit more creative with our answers by adding 0 to our picture in the form of 3 additional black dots together with 3 red antidots. By modifying our picture in this way, we can now form a 4th group of 7 black dots and declare that 25 divided by 7 results in an answer of 4 groups, with a remainder of -3. In fact, we can use this procedure of adding 0 to the picture, in the form of dots and antidots, to demonstrate that there are actually infinitely many correct answers to the question, what is 25 divided by 7? Often, whenever a mathematical question has multiple correct answers, mathematicians like to establish a way of identifying one unique solution that represents all of them. Which of these many solutions that we've identified would you choose as the one most natural to represent 25 divided by 7? Well, the solutions with negative remainders seem rather contrived. And the solutions with large remainders just don't feel right since, we can continue finding more groups in a natural way. It is generally agreed that the most natural solution to 25 divided by 7 is the one for which the remainder is non-negative and also less than 7. While all of the answers that we've identified are certainly correct, most teachers of mathematics will tell you that 25 divided by 7 is equal to 3 groups of 7 with a remainder of 4. As you probably know, when dividing 7 into 25, 3 is known as the quotient, and 4 is called the remainder. Next, we're going to see how we can use visual division to divide a negative number by a positive number, and we will conclude by discussing how these ideas can be used to visually identify why division by 0 is undefined. But first, if you are enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to this channel by hovering over the red button in the corner and clicking subscribe. I'd really appreciate your help in building this channel. Now, let's see how we can use pictures to divide 7 into -25. This time we will begin with 25 antidots, each of which represent the number -1. Since we're dividing by a positive number, positive 7, we'll use a black marker to select our negative dots and interpret the result, negative divided by positive, as a negative group. Observe that after making 3 such groupings, 4 antidots remain. Well, 4 antidots represents the number -4, which certainly does meet our agreed-upon criterion of being less than 7. However, we also agreed that the number of dots remaining should be non-negative. We can resolve this dilemma by adding 0 to our picture in the form of 3 dots together with 3 antidots. This modification allows us to identify one additional group of 7 antidots and leaves us with 3 dots remaining. Since 3 is a non-negative number that is also less than 7, our procedure of picture division is complete. We can now conclude that -25 dots divided by positive 7 is equal to -4 groups with 3 dots remaining. In other words, -25 divided by 7 produces a quotient of -4 and a remainder of 3. Now, let's consider the problem of finding 0 divided by 3. The picture which illustrates this problem is really quite simple. We begin with a set of 0 dots, and our goal is to circle groups of 3 dots each until a non-negative number of fewer than 3 dots remain. Well, this task is completed before it's ever begun. We find 0 groups of 3 dots in our picture, so there's nothing at all to circle. And we see that the number of dots that remain, 0 dots, is both non-negative and less than 3. Therefore, 0 divided by 3 produces a quotient of 0 with a remainder of 0. It's easy to use this argument to see that 0 divided by 7, 0 divided by 14, 0 divided by -8, in fact, 0 divided by any number is always equal to 0. Any number, that is, with a single exception. We'll get to that exception very soon. First, let's see what happens if we try to evaluate 3 divided by 0. Well, we'll begin with a set of 3 dots. Our procedure tells us to begin circling groups of 0 dots until fewer than 0 dots remain. Well, it is clear that no matter how many groups of 0 dots we identify, there will always be 3 dots remaining. Therefore, we can never complete our procedure, and we are forced to conclude that 3 divided by 0 is undefined. Now, we've already seen that 0 divided by any number is equal to 0, but with a single exception. And now it's time to examine that exception. What happens if we try to divide 0 by 0? Well, we would begin with a set of 0 dots and proceed to circle groups of 0 dots each until fewer than 0 dots remain. However, 0 dots always remain after each step, so there will never be fewer than 0 dots remaining, and we can never complete our procedure. Our only conclusion must be that 0 divided by 0 is undefined. If you are intrigued by these ideas, please consider watching the next Math Singer video that YouTube will be recommending just for you. And please consider subscribing to this channel so that you can be notified whenever future Math Singer videos are released. For now, thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you next time.